Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Halifax Raiders Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 24. So I am recording this episode a few hours after you guys would have seen the last episode. I'm just very curious on how this team does this year because our team is starting to shape up quite nicely. Here is what our roster is looking like going into the season. As you can see, we still have pretty much the main top six that has been together for quite a few years, except for Del Rivera, who's only played 1 year in the NHL. Our third line is looking very nice, I think, as well, with like Classic getting better. We just drafted Frederick Piro-Zabotal, who should hopefully help out our third line a bit, and Ponikarovsky. And our fourth line is probably the strongest it's ever been. Defensively is also getting better, even though there is a -1 on the top six pairing. And our goaltending isn't really still the strongest. That's definitely our question mark going into the season, is if our goaltending could improve. And yeah, just very excited to see if this team could take that next step and get to at least like a 500 record or maybe a little bit above that. But anyways, before we get into the season simulation, let's get to some comments. So the first comment we have is from Shankly Mania, who says, "The Legion is doing what they do, and the Sheriff is doing amazingly as well. Let's say we go plus 500 this season. Where the heck are Sherov's X factors, by the way? Should have at least gotten one for passing already, in my opinion. This Halifax team is keeping my own Hyven Khan Amat Finnish draft to glory save pretty much on hold. Much rather see how this team does." And then our favorite scratch player, Coca-Cola, is from about 20 miles from me and has also played Liga for my hometown team a few years ago. So money well spent. That's pretty cool. And yeah, basically what the thing is, I already was telling Shankly in the comments, but unfortunately it seems like in franchise mode that potentials like high potential players are the only ones that could generate X factors. So you will not see somebody like Sherov who's got low top 9 potential generating them. You'll only see guys with like medium elite potential, top 6-4 potential probably, that type of thing, which kind of sucks. But as long as we can generate some X factors to our lineup, it's fine. And then yeah, Sherov will probably just be a prototypical third liner with no X factors, but very happy with how he's developed, obviously, because of the fact this guy was not even supposed to get drafted, and he's developed into being one of our best players. Next comment is from Michael Dose, who says, "Wait 1 year on Sonnenberg, I say, and let him get starting time in the AHL." And I totally agree with that. I think 1 year of him being a starter in the minors would do good for us, because obviously I think by the time next season rolls around, he should be a legit NHL goaltender, and then maybe we'll actually have a goaltender in the 80 overall range, which would be really nice. Next comment is from Ezra Hambrook, who says, "Great video, Snipe. A nickname for FPZ could be Easy Peasy." And I kind of like that nickname, so I guess we will call him Easy Peasy if we could remember. Hopefully he makes it easy peasy when he's like scoring goals and picking up assists, but who knows, maybe he won't be that great of a player, but I feel like he should be, based on the fact he's going to get to play with some really good players on that third line, and then eventually he should generate into being a top 6 forward for us, and Sherov will probably be demoted to the third line at some point, which kind of sucks in reality, but it will make our team much stronger down the middle. And then the last and final comment is from Saturn Otaku, who says, "Your forward and defense groups look solid, but I think still goaltending is what's holding you back. You really need an 80+ overall goaltender to take that final step forward. I predict a 38-38-6 record." And yeah, I totally agree about the goaltending situation. I think that's what might hold us back a little bit, is how bad the goaltending is still. However, I do think with our top 6 and our bottom 6 being as strong as it's ever been, and our defensive core starting to improve as well, I think we should be a little bit better defensively, and hopefully that translates into good numbers for our goaltending. But we need guys like Sea-Doo, Boys, Kolesnik to be really strong, because these other 3 are more like top 6 in depth defenders. So should be interesting to see what those guys do. And then, like I said, our bottom 6 being as strong as it's ever been, I hope that they could kind of keep the puck out in net. But there is a little bit more offensively minded guys in the bottom 6, like Petterman is a power forward, Ponikarovsky's a sniper. You have another power forward in Lassick, a playmaker in Piro-Zabotal, a playmaker in Weber. So I feel like we still lack a little bit too little two-way forwards on this bottom 6 to make it actually a good defensive bottom 6. So hopefully we can find those type of things in future drafts. But yeah, that's basically the comments we got. Let's get into the season sim, I think. We do need to dish out some 8-year contract extensions first, though, to some guys that will be up in the offseason, because I do want to lock these guys up while I have the opportunity to, because they're just going to get more expensive as time goes on. So we are going to be trying to get Sea-Doo and Lassick both on 8-year extensions. The other guys like Mayer and Ponikarovsky, I'm going to have to wait till the offseason, I think, to give them contract extensions. But I do want to get these medium league guys locked up, especially Lassick, I'd say, because Lassick could be a very important piece to our depth scoring down the road. So let's take on what Lassick wants on his contract. If we go 8 years, he wants 5.45, so he's definitely going to develop into being a decent player based on that asking price, or he should. If we go on 85% trick, we might be able to get him to an 8-year deal at just over 4.6 million, so something like 4.65 should work. That would be a great deal, I think, for a third liner, and maybe he'll become a guy in our top 6 at some stage. And then Sea-Doo, I'm not really sold on locking him up fully for the 8 years, kind of because of the fact he's a DFD, but I do want to have a good defensive core. He might be one of these first guys that's on his way out after his contract ends, but we'll see. What can I get him for on the 85% trick? Just over 6 million. I think that's not really that bad as well. If we could get him for 6.15 for 8 years, that's a legit top 4 contract, and yeah, he's already an 87 overall, so I already like that contract quite a bit if he is to accept that. So it is a bit expensive at first, but obviously we aren't going to be dishing out more 8-year contracts, I think, after this offseason, because of the fact we have to save up a little bit more money, because obviously Mauricio Wilm's contract comes to an end in a few years, I think. Yeah, 5 years still, so quite far out, but obviously we definitely want to start saving up a little bit of cap space for when he's up for renewal, because once he's up for renewal, then Lehman's up for renewal, then Ahenen's up for renewal, Kolesnik, and then we're going to be looking at spending a ton of money in those 5 years. So we're hoping to be at least competitive by that time, which would be great. So let's advance a few days and see if we get those guys on those extensions. Lassick gets the 8-year extension, perfect, and Sea-Doo does as well, perfect. So we got another 2 guys signed to 8-year deals. We're just handing out 8-year deals like candy at this point, but I don't really mind it at all. So let's see how we do in the preseason, and then hopefully this regular season we could do really well as well. Like I said, I don't necessarily want to win another draft lottery at this point because of the fact it's just going to cost us a lot of money down the road, but hopefully we could get still some good prospects in that won't be as cost effective, you know. So 5-1-2 in the preseason is a good look. Hopefully the regular season continues like that. Mauricio Wilm led the way with 11 points in 8 games. Nicely done. He always does well. Always does well. I wonder how much I'm predicting him to get point-wise this season. I'm going to guess over 100 points again and over 50 goals, which shouldn't be too hard for him. But if I was going to guess exactly how much points he was going to get, I'm going to guess like maybe he could get a career high like 120 points, because this is the best team we've had on paper. So I'm hoping he could continue to be on that trajectory. And for team record-wise, I'm thinking we're going to definitely get around, I'm going to say 37 wins. That's my prediction. So let's see how close we can get to 37 wins. I think the goaltending definitely, like Sandro Notaku was mentioning, will hold us back a little bit, but I'm hoping it doesn't hold us back that much. So let's go to January the 1st, take it a little bit slow, and see how this team does to start off the year. Last year we had a hot start to the season, but then we fell off a bit, so we'll see where we're able to sit after January the 1st. We're getting some wins early on, which is a great sign. But once again, we could just fall off randomly on a giant losing streak, which we almost had one there. We had a 3-game losing streak, but now it is a 3-game winning streak. Okay. That's actually pretty nice. We're staying right at 500 at this point. And of course, as I say that now, we're starting to lose a couple games in a row here. But still, pretty solid start to the year. Hopefully we could get to the playoffs next season if we don't make it this year. Palin's losing morale because he's scratched in the AHL, but he's no longer an NHL player, so there is a good chance he won't be coming back once his contract ends, just because of the fact we don't want guys just losing morale and making the team not very happy. We already have 11 wins on the season, which is a nice thing to have. Should be able to get right where we were pretty much last year. I don't remember how much wins we exactly had last season, but we are at 15 wins at January the 1st. 15, 18, and 4. Last wildcard spot has 42 points. We have 34. So definitely still out of the mix by quite a large margin. But if we look at like the entire league standings, I feel like we're maybe a little bit better than last year at this point, which is pretty nice. Don't really want to take a look at player stats yet, so I'm not going to get even out of this calendar screen because I don't want to know how players are doing until we actually get to that point. So let's go 1 month at a time. Let's go to February to 1st, see how we do in January. As this team still gets closer and closer to 500, we win 2 games and then lose to the Bruins. Do get a point against Vegas and beat Carolina. It looks like we're hanging around in games a lot more. Like the goal scoring, obviously on the other side, the teams we're playing against isn't as bad as prior years, because there was years where we were getting outscored like 12-2 or something like that. But like in this month, even though we lost some games, we had games where we lost like say 4-3 or 4-3 in overtime there, 5-3. So we're hanging around in games a little bit longer than we did in the past. We are now 22-23-5. And we're not the worst team in the Atlantic Division now, as we have passed the Detroit Red Wings. We're closing in on that wildcard spot in a little bit. 4 points back with the same amount of games played. So that's kind of nice. Yeah, I'm liking the way this team is simulating at this stage. If we were in the Pacific Division, we'd be as high up as 5th, which is kind of nuts. So we are in a pretty good situation at the moment, obviously. Let's go to February the 27th, the day before the deadline, see if we could get above 500 by the end of this month. Like I said, I kind of want to be a 500 team or above 500 team. Hey, we're in a 24-6 now. New York has fired their head coach. Okay. There's back-to-back losses. There's a win over Dallas, though. A loss to Colorado. Yeah, we're still definitely a little bit inconsistent, but once that goaltending gets better, I think, like Saturn Taku was mentioning, that will be the last thing we kind of need, because we're 27-29-6 with an average goaltending, or below average goaltending, I should say. So that's pretty nice. Last wildcard spot now has 73 points. Yeah, we're definitely way out of the mix to make it into the playoffs, but we are still, like, if we were in, let's see, what division? If we were in, like, still the Pacific Division, we'd still be in 5th place, which is pretty nice. If we were in the Metropolitan Division, we'd be in 6th place. So you could definitely see that our division being as strong as it is also poses a bit of a problem for this team, but very happy with how we've been simulating. Just hopefully the point production on the team is just as good. Like, hopefully we're getting good stat lines from our top guys. So 27-30-6 at March the 1st. Let's go a couple weeks here and see how we do over that span. There's a win over Montreal, a loss to New Jersey only by 1 goal, so that's okay. A win over Nashville, a shootout loss there to the Rangers. See, like, when we're losing games, it's not as bad as it was in years prior, which is really good to see. And hopefully we're getting development from guys like Pierre Zabotle, because that would be great. Okay, 31-35-7. Let's go to the end of the month fully. See if we could get that back up to being closer to 500, but that's okay where it is right now. 8-6 win over the Kraken is really nice. Hey, 3 straight wins, 4 straight wins, and we also had an OT loss. So we're on a little bit of a point streak here. 35-35-8 with 4 games to go on the year. And we're at 78 points. Last wildcard's 87. So yeah, there's no way we get into the playoffs at this rate, but there is a good chance that we could finish above 500 if we win 3 of these last 4 games, which is nice. So let's see how we do. Let's do 2 games at a time. Calgary and Ottawa. How are we going to do against them? 5-3 win and 6-0 win. Wow, we are on a good streak here. This is probably our best streak in franchise history, because we lose an OT there. Then we win 3 straight games, 4 straight games. We're on a 6-game winning streak, which is awesome. That's great to see going into next season. 37-35-8 and 2 games to go. Do we finish above 500 on the season? There's a win over Pittsburgh and also on Toronto. We finished the season with an 8-game winning streak, I think. 39-35-8. That is fantastic. For not making the playoffs, that was a really good season. Like, we missed the playoffs by the margin of 5 points, I think. Unless the Lightning end up winning their next game, then it would be by 7 points. But still, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, it was only by 5 points that we missed the playoffs. Then again, our division is so stacked that it would be probably hard to get into that last wildcard spot or last playoff spot. But very impressed with how the team did this season. We didn't hit 40 wins, but we definitely were very close to it. And we did have points in technically 47 of our 82 games, which is also great. So there is that. Let's take a look at our player stats now and see what went right. Also our team stats, and hey, look at that. Mauricio Wilm, another 50-goal season, another 100-point season. Not as good as I was predicting, but still 109 points. I can never complain with how he performs. He's always very consistent, which is nice. But let's take a look first though at our team stats, see what we did right and what we did wrong. Likely it's our defense and goaltending that's still not great, but we'll definitely find out. So goals for per game on average, we were not up there in the top 10. Oh, maybe our depth scoring fell off after our top line again. Yeah, we were kind of like mid-table offensively, which is interesting. We did actually allow less goals than we scored, which is interesting. We were, I think, better defensive team than offensive. Or maybe right around the same point, actually. I don't even know, but still. We definitely did take a good step up defensively this year, even with our goaltending situation. Power play percentage, our power play struggled this year, so that's probably what made our offense fall off a little bit, because it had been good in prior years. It's still decent, but it's definitely not as good as it was before. Penalty kill percentage wise, we are one of the better teams on the penalty kill at 82%, which is still right around mid-table, so we're pretty average in everything, which is not a bad thing to have. 7 short-handed goals, 20, 19, and 2 on home ice, 19, 16, and 6 on the road, and yeah, 8, 1, and 1 in our last 10 games to end the season. We're definitely going to have our highest up pick yet, or not highest up pick, we're going to have our worst pick yet, because we technically finished 20th best in the NHL, which is above a lot of other teams, so there's not a high chance we win the lottery this year. There's a higher chance that we have like a very mid pick, but hopefully we can get somebody decent with that pick to help us out for future years. Let's take a look at these player stats now, because I am very curious on how everybody did. So Mauricio's the only one that hit 100 points this year on the team apparently, which is not really a surprise. Plus 31, that's very great to see. That's the best plus minus we've seen the top line have yet. And yeah, Mauricio Wilm now with 5 consecutive 100-point seasons and 5 consecutive 50-goal seasons. This guy is a beast, and I can't wait to see what he gets done once we actually get into the playoffs. He's very close to being at that exact potential, which is interesting. So it looks like he's going to cap out as a 95, but that's okay. Liam Ahinen, 88 points in 82 games is what I was trying to say. I kind of combined the plus minus, plus 22. Pretty solid year for Ahinen. Definitely way worse than last year and a few years ago, but still, this guy's well over point per game. He's a great setup guy. Maybe he's up there again for the Selke. He did change his X factor because he didn't have a gold ability. He has gold quick draw now, which is really nice. Very useful for a guy that might win a Selke. 58% on the draw, 90 takeaways. I don't think he's still going to win the Selke because of the fact he has low takeaway numbers, but his face-off numbers are great, and that will definitely help us on the offensive side of things. Sherov, 63 points is pretty solid still. Not as good of a year for Sherov as prior years, but still 63 points and a minus 11. I will definitely take that from him. Not the best face-off numbers, but that is okay. Yeah, he's still a great player. So there's the Sheriff. Stajan had 57 points, so a little bit of drop-off from these guys from last year, but still very solid numbers. Very solid. Much better plus-minus as well. I should point that out for sure. So definitely take that from Stajan. Piero Zabala's rookie season, only 35 points, but definitely helped us out a little bit on the offensive side of things. 28 assists is great, but the 7 goals, not so much. He might be more of a pure passer because he only had 57 shots all season. So if we put him next to a guy that's a great shooter, he should be able to pick up a lot of assists down the road. Up to an 81 overall, which is pretty solid. So he is developing nicely. He might take over that second line center spot next season. Maybe he stays on the third line for one more year. We'll see. Markov, 21 points, not bad. Once again, this guy's not really much of anything, but still he has at least produced at an okay level. Left wing wise, Lehman hit 81 points and 35 goals, plus 28. Definitely a little bit of a down year again for Alan Lehman. He's kind of one of these overrated players, I'd say, on our team in a sense. Like, not super overrated, but he definitely doesn't bring as much offense as I was hoping he would. Like, he's over a point per game, but he definitely has not even hit 50 goals, which is kind of questionable as a power forward. I think he'd hit a 50-goal season by now, but he's definitely not able to do that, it seems like, when he's playing with a guy like Wilm who scores a lot of goals. Lastic hit 49 points this year and 25 goals. Really like that from Vlasic, especially with his contract extension we just gave him. Hopefully he continues to develop quite nicely. Weber hit 33 points as a fourth liner with no power play time, only -7. He's up to an 80 overall, so Joel Weber looking like a great steal. He might be the type of guy that gets on the third line next season easily because he's got good passing stats. He's picked up relatively well in terms of offense for a guy that doesn't get a lot of ice time, so very happy with his stats. Petterman, 20 points, not bad. Up to a 75. I think he was a 75 before. I don't know if he's going to get much more development, which kind of sucks, but that's okay. 20 points is decent. Del Rovere hit 51 points this year, 29 goals. Pretty good season from Del Rovere, improving on his rookie year by a little bit. Better defensive stats. How is his takeaway numbers as a two-way? Pretty solid. Love to see it. Ponegrovsky hit 34 points, not bad. He's a 77. Looks like he's going to count out as more of like a fourth line / depth scoring forward, which is not bad. How about our defensive core? Okay, our defensive core, pretty balanced offensively. It seems like Maddox Boy's 27 points, plus 22. Still not really too happy with how Boyes has turned out to be in a sense, but he's been okay defensively. He brings some offense, but not as much as we were hoping for. Maybe in a few years he'll eventually have a randomly really good season. But yeah, not the best so far for him. At least he's not making too much money. Kolesnik, 22 points, plus 38 is great to see. Liking Kolesnik's defensive play for sure. And he brings a little bit of offense too, which is kind of nice for a DFD. Then McLaren hits 17 points as a 75 low top 4. That's not bad. He is still only a 75, but still a 17-point season is no slouch for sure. Sea-Doo, 13 points, not bad. He is still an 87. Mayer, 12 points, still 79 as he should be, and Dimitra, 10 points. Dimitra definitely was our worst defenseman because that plus minus is not great, but hopefully that improves in future years when we're a much better team. Goaltending wise, Nikitin's starting to pan out, looks like. 31, 27, and 7 record, 3 shutouts, a 906 save percentage, and a 2.99 goals against average. So our first goaltender to have below a 3 goals against average. That's pretty nice. He is still a 77, which is not ideal. But, I mean, he's at least starting to win more games, it looks like, and play a little bit better over the last few seasons. So, even though he probably will end up losing his starting job at some point, he's looking like an okay goalie for his potential and his overall. Friesen, once again, not much of an NHL goaltender. It seems like he might have high potential, like when we drafted him, but he has not been a good NHL goaltender, so there is a good chance he's back in the minors for maybe the rest of his career after the season. So there is that. Let's take a look at stats around the league, see who did what. So the best player in the league this season, Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner with 123 points. Kyle Connor with 121. Draisaitl, Thompson on 111. Same with Jesper Bratt. A lot of players over 100 points this season. And yeah, Mauricio Wilm was one of them, of course. Yeah, there was a lot of players with over 100 points this year. That might be the most in NHL history, I think. Oh my god. That's at least like 20 players with over 100 points. Most goals. Kyle Connor was 68. Wow. Wilm finished top 10 in goals for them, which is nice. Let's take a look at those Selke candidates. Not that we probably have one because of the takeaway counts, but let's still take a look anyways. Looks like Robert Thomas would be up there for sure, as well as Tim Stützle. Okay. Best defenseman this season, let me guess, Cale Makar. Yep, Cale Makar again. He's having crazy years every season. Gonna win another Norris easily. No fair for guys like Heiskanen and Hughes for sure. And Bowen Byram, who's now in Philadelphia. Interesting. Best goaltender this season was Georgiev with 47 wins. Most shutouts. Artur Silovs in Toronto is 7. Same with Kim Modine. Best save percentage by a starter, Silovs. It looks like Silovs might win the Vezina, which is kind of interesting. Modine was up there, but only 37 games. Yeah, it's got to be Silovs, I think, that wins his first Vezina. Any goalie goals? Vasilevsky, 5 assists. No goalie goals. Best rookie this season was Ville Koskinen of the New York Rangers with 53 points. He was the 6th overall pick a few years ago. And then you have Lincoln Linden at number 2. Coolin up there. Kolosov. Pierre Zabal finished 6th in rookie points, but he was 2nd in assists, only behind Nikita Kolosov. Interesting. So there's that. Let's take a look at our AHL player stats as well, because I do want to know how the guys did down there. Hopefully got some good progression as well. We'll definitely take a look at that in this episode, if any guys got good development. Louis Mathieu had a really good rookie season in the AHL. That's a good sign for our future. 63 points. He probably got some good growth because of that. So that's a good rookie year for him. Walniski was good. Mason was good. Yeah. Some of our AHL players had good years. Wait, oh, wow. And Felipe Flood, too. I'm hoping that a lot of those low leads that we have in the minors are able to get good growth because of a season like that. How about the goaltending? Sonnenberg was solid. They actually might have made the playoffs, Burnaby, which would be great. Both goalies had over a 900 save percentage. Sonnenberg should be NHL bound next season if he's got actually growth overall wise. So I am very happy with how the NHL team did and also the AHL team, because I think the AHL team might have came close to the playoffs. Let's see. Oh, they missed by 1 point. Are you kidding me? Damn, man, it sucks. But they still had a good year by all matters. So let's take a look at who wins the Stanley Cup in 2031. We are definitely flying through these seasons relatively quick, which is kind of concerning, but hopefully we could get to the playoffs next season or the season afterwards, because as long as this goaltending finds its way, I think we're definitely a playoff team really soon, which is awesome. Then these seasons won't go by as fast as they did for the first 8 years or whatever it has been. So Edmonton wins the Stanley Cup this season in 2031. I think they've already won a Stanley Cup in the series, haven't they? I feel like they have. We'll definitely take a look at the roster. They beat the Rangers in 7 games. Okay, I think they did win the Cup last year over Boston. I feel like they did. I could be completely wrong with that. But let's take a look at these Edmonton Oilers and also the New York Rangers. Connor McDavid going off 43 points, Heyman and Draisaitl. They brought in Owen Tippett, and he was great too. Yeah, I do recognize this roster for the most part. So I feel like they definitely have won a Stanley Cup already, but we'll definitely take a look and see. Lucas Dolstall was their goaltender. Oh yeah, I wanted to take a look at the Rangers as well, just so you guys could see actually what the Rangers were looking like when they got to the finals. See if they still have guys like Panarin, which I don't think they would, because I think he's already retired. Adam Fox, Zibanejad, Frank Vetrano. Lafreniere's actually starting to pan out. Mark Stone. Interesting. Who is this dude? Mario Mathieu. So the brother of our Mathieu that's in the minors, maybe. And yeah, of course, Igor Shesterkin, Caden Primo. Let's take a look at the awards. So, the Stanley Cup champions were Edmonton, and no, they didn't win last year. When did they win? I feel like they've won in the series before, at least once. I could be wrong with that. Maybe they got to a finals last year? No, they did not. I don't know why I think that then. A lot of Canadian teams in the Cup finals doing the last 5 seasons. So there is that. Let's take a look at the award winners. So, Art Ross going to Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, their Hart. Cale Makar, another Norris. I feel like that's literally like 6 or 7 straight for him. Jack Hughes, the Lady Bing. Lincoln Linden wins the Calder for Colorado. Okay. Connor McDavid, the Conn Smythe. Artur Silov's the Vezina. Carter Hart, the Jennings. Him and Modine, actually, for that matter. Nolan Allen, I think his name is. Bill Masterton. Nashville's head coach wins the Jack Adams. The Selke going to Robert Thomas, Lindsay going to Mitch Marner, and the Mauricio Richard. Oh man, we should actually say that the Mauricio Wilm Award is actually the Maurice Richard Trophy. Change it from Maurice to Mauricio. That's why I said that. Oh man. But Kyle O'Connor will win that award. Let's see, AHL wise, do we get any awards? Does not look like it, surprisingly. I thought we would at least get an award with how good that rookie season was for Mathieu, but no. Let's take a look at the draft lottery results. Did we win the draft lottery despite having terrible odds? I'm saying no way there's that gonna happen. We will stay at 14. So this is definitely our latest pick yet. We probably will get stuck with a top 6 forward or a top 4 defenseman, but that is okay, because we don't really need any more elite players. Retirement-wise, Scheifele, Goudreau, Stone retires, Toffoli, some pretty big names. Not going to go through everybody again because we don't really care too much at this stage. So there's that. Best goalie retired, Linus Ullmark and Philip Grubauer. Merzlikins as well. Peter Mrazek, I almost said Philip Mrazek. My brain is completely scrambled for no reason, but oh well. Scheifele is now a head coach. Okay. Did we lose any coaches here in Halifax? Oh yeah, we lost Moravec, who I think was the goalie coach that we literally signed again in last episode. I think that literally was our goalie coach again. So we need to find ourselves maybe another goalie coach again, which kind of sucks, but is what it is. Oh man, of course when we don't have the first overall pick, there's a franchise playmaker. Imagine having this guy next to Wilm. Jeez. Guy Lacerte. Wow. Well, Wilm's got some competition. This guy's a passer, though, so he's going to pick up a lot of assists. But, damn. That would have been really nice, but obviously it would have cost us a ton of money down the road. So, since we have the 14th overall pick, what are we looking at for our potential pick here? We're looking at maybe Moran, which we don't know anything about. We also have Reese Addison, who looks actually relatively solid. Is a two-way forward. I will pin him. So he's a top 6 forward. This guy literally doesn't look that good. He's 4 years out, though, which makes me feel like he might be a low elite, but he also could be just a top 6 like Addison is. He also could be a high top 9 here like Kolosov is, too. Kind of weird that a high top 9 would go in the first round. Like, this draft class probably won't be that strong after the franchise guy, my guess. Do we want to do any draft interviews here? Ooh, Ned Harrington looks good. We could use more snipers, though, as I pin him. I'll pin the DFD as well, because might as well. Let's see. Marty Fox. Marty Fox might be 2 years out. Let me find out for certain about his ETA, because if this guy is 2 years out, he might not be a top 6. He might be a low elite with a very high overall, which would be really solid. So Marty Fox, let's see how good you are in terms of readiness. That's all I think I need to really know about him. A few seasons, so probably 2 to 3 years. If he's a top 6, that'll kind of suck. Yeah, he's a power forward. We know about that. His greatest weakness will probably be something, my guess, to do with, I don't know, his defensive play maybe? It's kind of tough for power forwards to have a weakness. Yeah, his defense is lacking, okay. Let's see, is this guy actually 2 years away? Because if he is, that would probably be a better pick. 3 years out, so he's probably just a normal top 6 based on that. Yeah, he's probably a top 6 with a high overall, but I'll still pin him. Anybody else? There might be an offensive defenseman here in Voracek, but he might be only a top 4. Or he could be a low elite too. But I don't think I'm going to be able to find out enough by interviewing him, unfortunately. Dingle looks like probably just a normal top 6. A lot of guys that might be just normal top 6s, which kind of sucks. So there's that. Let's take a look at potential players, see if there's any like steals. I have to go back to the top of this apparently because it didn't sort it properly. Might have a medium elite goalie here in Tulipov. Yeah, I think he's definitely our medium elite because he's 5 years out. So we'll pin him. There's also Jesper Anderson, who's a medium elite power forward, maybe center power forward, and he's not supposed to go to the second round, so we might have to take this guy in the second round just to give us another player. We'll definitely pin him. I do want to know what type of player he is though, so I don't want to know about anything else really. So let's see if he actually is a power forward, because that'll help us find out a little bit more info on him. Likes to play hard in the corners and is a dependable player that's not afraid to get physical. He might be a grinder. He might be a medium elite grinder for the round 2. Let's just go personality. Just ask him a few more questions because might as well. And then we will see if he's actually going to be solid. I feel like he's a grinder though, not a power forward. Outspoken at times. Okay. And yeah, let's just end the conversation there and see if he is a grinder or a power forward if we have that down. He is a grinder. Okay, medium elite grinder for round 2, and Jesper Anderson. Not going to bring much offense to us. He does have the weakness in character, which is not ideal. But we do get ourselves a physical player for the bottom 6. That might not be a bad option. Because medium elite grinders usually don't develop into being super, super high overall. But I wouldn't mind that guy for a second rounder. Even with the lack of, or not the lack of confidence, the lack of character, I should say. Bengtson looks like a medium-link goaltender. Maybe same with Solis. There's a lot of good players in this draft, maybe actually. Ooh, Brian Hull. 2 years out, guaranteed, right-handed defenseman, looking like a DFD, but he's supposed to go mid-first round before our pick, I think, which kind of sucks. Anybody else intriguing? Let's see if there's any low elites. Hey, there's a gem. Medium elite goaltender that looks almost NHL ready. That's probably not medium elite. I feel like he's a starter with a good overall, my guess, but we'll definitely pin Ernest Perron because he looks pretty good. Had some really good stats in the US too. And finally, the low elites, if there's any. Bryson DeLuca looks actually pretty good. Might have a 2-year ETA, so we'll pin him. Braden Perez looks also pretty solid. Maybe 4 years out as a low elite sniper, which would be good. Dwayne Brooks might be good too. There's actually a lot of decent looking players in this draft in the later rounds, in my opinion, but I don't know for a fact if these guys are actually all that good. Huh. Wow, okay. So we might be able to find some good late round steals, which would be nice for our team. Okay, final few things. Let's look at the contract situation and the progress reports. So starting off with the contract situation, we probably don't have as much cap space as prior years, but Mayer's up for renewal. He's relatively cheap. Should easily be able to bring him back for the top 6. Ponikarovsky for the bottom 6. We should be able to bring him back on a 1-year deal. And then we also have a bunch of AHL guys that we'll be bringing back on 2-way deals. Some of them we might have to let go of, like Markov, for example, because he might lose his roster spot to Darcy Watton. And then goalie-wise, Nick Keaton's up for renewal. He only wants $1 million. It looks like he's not going to develop much more based on the 8-year contract things. So we could lock him up as a backup goalie, but we have a lot of other goalies like Gove who should be jumping into the AHL next season. So we'll see about that. Okay, final thing, the progress reports. Did we get growth from our top guys? That's the important thing now. Did we get growth from guys that we need growth from? So looks like, actually let me sort by overall. So Wilm's a 96 based on statistical growth, I think. No, some natural growth too. Surprised he's still growing at this stage. Ahinen looks like he got some statistical and natural as well, but he's only an 88. He's not actually an 89. Stajan's an 87, so it looks like he got some statistical drop off. We got growth from Pierce the Bottle. Sharov's only an 80 overall. That's probably why we're still not that good, is because he's actually an 80. It's the statistical growth that's bumping him up a lot. And then you have Mason, who's a 77 now. So Dan Mason likely going to be playing on our NHL team next year as like a 4th line center. So he's probably going to be taking that spot from Markov as the 4th line center. Left wing wise, Lehman still at an 89. Lassick still at an 83. Weber at an 80, as we saw earlier. Looks good. Petterman's getting some. He's only a 76. Yeah, a lot of these guys are kind of just capping out. Matthews up to a 76. That's actually great. Louis Matthew might play on our NHL team next season. We'll see. Ponikarovsky is 75. So Matthew might take Ponikarovsky's time almost. Defensively, looks like we're getting good growth from everybody. Boys is up to an 85. A lot of guys are actually staying where they are. Rizzy's up to a 74, but he's not NHL ready yet. But he is very close to taking Daniel McLaren's spot already. And in goalie-wise, Sonnenberg's up to a 78, which is huge. So Sonnenberg will make his NHL debut next season. It'll be a 1-2 punch into Keaton and Sonnenberg, I think. And we'll probably have them both play like 40 games. AHL-wise, we still got Friesen. Cameron's probably going to be released, which means it'd be probably Friesen, Nornan, Gove in the AHL next season. Wilson's up to a 72. Flood's up to a 69, kind of slowly growing. The medium elite we drafted is up to a 52. Kind of not as much growth as I was hoping for. These guys not growing too much. Debt's up to a 66. Okay, that's pretty solid. Haken's up to a 52. Not bad. Yeah, it looks like we're still getting some pretty good growth in the system. Obviously, it's going to take a while for some guys, but Kozlov's up to a 71 at 20. Hopefully, he can make the NHL in a few years. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Halifax Raiders Draft Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we will probably obviously have a strong offseason, I think. I don't know how good we're going to do draft-wise because we're drafting super late, but We're going to hopefully have a solid draft to still fill out a roster for the future a little bit more. And we should have a good looking roster, I think, going into next season. And I feel like this team should be very close to being a playoff team next year, considering this year we only missed by like 7 points. So let us know down below, and I'll see you guys next time.